Welcome to The Real Final Mile, life in big and bulky home delivery, the only podcast dedicated to the delivery professionals that bring your large consumer goods to your home.
When your customer makes a big purchase, the sale is not finished until the delivery is done right. That is where Diacon Logistics comes in. Diacon Logistics is a full-service, third-party logistics partner specializing in white glove delivery, warehouse management, and logistics solutions for big and bulky products. From appliances and electronics to home furnishings and bedding, Diacon helps brands protect the customer experience where it matters most, at the final mile. At Diacon, delivery is not just a transaction, it is a reflection of your brand. Their team works as an extension of your business, bringing together professional service, flexible warehousing, cross-docking, inventory support, and innovative delivery technology to keep products moving and customers smiling. And with their customer-first philosophy, service is in the name, and every stop is treated like the one that matters most, because to the customer, it does. That focus helps create fewer damages, fewer returns, stronger satisfaction, and greater loyalty. Diacon Logistics, delivering on the details.
I'm joined today by Rob Davis from Diacon Logistics. Rob and I go back a couple decades, back to my days in Nebraska, his days in Virginia. And Rob is an industry legend. He's taken Diacon from a very successful company to a much more successful company, moved them from Virginia to Austin, Texas. He's got accounts all over the country. And if you've been to any event in logistics, you've seen Rob, and you've very likely seen him rolling with a ball cap on, keeping a low profile. Rob, thank you for joining me today.
John, appreciate the kind words. You're too kind as always. It's a pleasure to be here with you, though. Look forward to chatting.
Thanks, Rob. So before we dive into the final mile stuff, I do want to get a little bit about your background because we all came from somewhere else. And before we got into this, and some people are born into it, but you and I were not necessarily that lucky. So, Rob, what was before Diacon?
Yeah, I don't think a lot of people grew up saying, you know what, I want to figure out how to work in trucking and go into people's houses and deliver furniture and appliances. But however you got here, I personally love it. It's great. So I grew up always working in some capacity, one way or another. I cut my teeth growing up on a farm and worked really hard and got to the age, I think you're obligated to do this when you're in your teen years. You say, you know what, I don't want to do what my dad's doing. There's got to be a better way, right? You think there's got to be something out there better. And I was fortunate enough to have some opportunities. I've worked in everything. I've worked in politics, worked in consulting, I've worked in education, finance, a lot of different things. But as you get a little bit more experience under your belt, sometimes you learn, you know what, here's what I liked about those different aspects, and here's what I liked about those things. And a lot of those things have kind of come full circle to what I'm doing right now. I love what we do. I love working with our labor pool. You know, we kind of have this blue collar tradesman kind of labor pool, and I love it. There's a, I don't want to discourage anybody from going to college or anything like that, but this is a phenomenal industry. When a lot of other industries are getting disrupted, working in trades or working in logistics is a phenomenal place to be.
How did you get started in Final Mile?
Yeah, so how I got started in Final Mile was I was working in politics before on a presidential campaign in Boston. I was the finance director for Mitt Romney's 2012 campaign. And as you are well aware, we did not win. So despite my best efforts, we lost the campaign and I needed a job. So leading up to the final weeks of the campaign, anybody and everybody says you are the most important person in the world and that you can have any job you want. You can be the next ambassador. As soon as you lose a campaign, we quickly learn you can't get hired anywhere. So, but in all seriousness, I started doing some of my own consulting and worked with a couple different companies. And I did some consulting for Diacon. I knew the president at the time, and he called me and said, "Hey, will you work on this project for us? I know you've got some thoughts on this." And so I came in on a temporary basis to work on a few small projects, and just I liked it and kept doing it, and then my role expanded, and then took on another life of its own to where I am now.
It's awesome. So let's talk about that kid in high school who is evaluating what their options are. What advice would you have for that kid who decides to jump on a truck and make this a career?
Well, look, I was clueless in high school. I knew how to work, but I didn't know a lot about any other industries. I think where my background came in, I kind of had some suspicions that doctors made money and that lawyers made money. I didn't know how really anybody else made money or what a real career looked like. And so, but I knew that work was important, and I knew that having a job was really important, and I knew that adding value was really important. And so I just, whatever opportunity that I was given, I did it. But I do really wish I had somebody to talk to me, mentor me just a little bit more at that age. I had some phenomenal mentors a little bit older, but not at that age. At that age, I didn't know what I was doing. So I kind of just followed the trend. And one of the trends was, hey, you got to get into university, and you got to, you have to go to college. And after you go to college, then you figure out what you want to do. And so, and that was fine. I had a good experience in college, and it definitely opened up some doors for me. But I will say now, in hindsight, that you have to be really selective on if that is the right thing for you to do or where you should go to college. A lot of kids, I think, make the assumption that if I get into a top tier university, I will be able to get access to incredible funding, whether my family can afford it or not. I can go out and get a bank loan. No one's going to validate my ability to pay it back. I can take out $20, $50, $80, $100,000 in loans every year. And somehow, some way, I'll just figure out how to pay it off later. And they end up graduating with massive amounts of debt. And it is an absolute nightmare to get out of that situation. I've since had the opportunity to, I do know lots of, doctors, lawyers, different professions. And I know a lot of people that are really unhappy in those capacities, and they went down that path, and they're more or less kind of stuck because they have, this $300,000, $400,000 worth of debt, and you're, 3 years, 5 years into a dental practice, and you can't just switch careers at that point. You have to figure out how to pay off that debt. And so that's the way that I look at it more than anything else, is what can you do that isn't going to deleverage you or limit your opportunities. When you restrict yourself and strap yourself with massive amounts of debt with no plan to pay it off, your opportunities become a little bit limited. When you don't have as much debt, and somebody says, "Hey, you know what? I've got a fantastic opportunity. Any chance you can move to Florida?" Or, "Hey, any chance you can move to London to do this thing?" Or, "Any chance you can spend 3 months doing this?" If you don't have financial debt or also other personal things that are tying you down, other commitments, challenges, then you can evaluate and say, "Yeah, sure. Let me take a shot at this." And that will open up massive doors. And that's kind of been the story of my life. I was able to take on opportunities that really massively opened up huge doors for me.
Okay. That is a much larger answer than I was expecting, but I think that's fantastic because I think that answer gets the person looking 5 and 10 years down the road, and not just, what do I do if this is a career option for me? What were some of the challenges between being a consultant there and then becoming, a full-time employee? What were some of the challenges in the transition there?
Well, I'll answer that, and this may complete my last answer as well, too, is don't look for a job that somebody's willing to pay you something very specific to be there, right? I think there's a tendency to say, I show up to work, therefore I should get paid. If you have a different approach that you are going to solve a very specific problem and understand what's the value of solving that problem, then you can calculate what your value is pretty quickly, right? Every single business has a problem. And if you're, in high school or college, or I don't care if you've been working for 30 years, you can go talk to somebody and say, hey, I suspect you have a problem, because you might have some expertise in that. Or you can just ask them, hey, what are your top 3 problems? Mm-hmm. What would it be like if I can solve that one problem for you? Do you have a growth problem? Do you have a finance problem? Do you have a customer satisfaction problem? What is your problem? Problems are fantastic. They are your friend. That is a way to make a lot of money. If you're not solving any problems, why would anybody want to pay you any money? So look at those things and I think welcome them into your life. And so that was, going back to your question, that was my story of joining Diacon. I joined Diacon. They had a problem of having one major customer. They had multiple customers, but they had one customer that made up the vast majority of their revenues, and they had to solve for that. So I worked on that.
Okay. So that's a great transition to the next question is, so you're now employed by Diacon and you start scaling the company. And anybody who's ever run a business, owned a business, or been a leader in a business knows that it's never a straight line to the top. There's bounces and bumps and bruises along the way. So what was the main strategy that you changed so that you could scale Diacon to where it is today?
Well, working with Diacon, I think is not unique to any characteristics of any other business necessarily. You have to have really good people. You have to have a vision and direction of where you're going. People don't. Part of growing a business is you're growing people. You're building a team, and if you have bad teammates or people that don't want to be there, or people that aren't sure if they want to be there, or aren't sure what the direction is, then you're never going to get anywhere, right? So there has to be an understanding of what direction you're going, what are the habits, what are some of your strategic initiatives that you're gonna do to get there. It has to be a healthy organization. So I don't care what industry you're in or what you're doing. If everybody's rowing together and you're going the same direction, you will win. You will dominate. But if you have one person that's rowing at a slightly different pace, or rowing in a slightly different direction, or putting an anchor down instead of a row, you'll never get anywhere, no matter how good the other players are. So there's lots of different fallacies, I think, in going into business, and this is maybe one that I quickly realized coming into our business was there's a little bit of a kind of a camaraderie, and everyone experiences this when you come into your first day at work in a new job, and you kind of try to figure out, most people, what they want to do is they say, I want to fit in. What am I going to do to fit in to this new organization, to this new role, right? Mm-hmm. And there's a certain element of a healthy organization, but there's some unhealthy characteristics of a lot of people talk about camaraderie or family. I think camaraderies are more often than not, they're really negative. They could be really bad. They serve to protect the bureaucratic nature of an organization, to not get things done, to protect my friend or so-and-so who's been here for a long time, and a sense of hey, if I'm, you know, if I protect so and so, they'll protect me. What you have to do is figure out how to get rid of any cancer, get rid of anything, any person, any process, any behavior that is not contributing to advancing mission of the organization. And so that was really critical for me when I joined. I mean, really in any company I've joined, but particularly at Diacon, was to figure out where is their cancer and what's going on. And some of that cancer was internal, some of it was external.
When it comes to scaling final mile delivery, what are most people misunderstanding about this? And then there would be a follow-up to this that I'll plant the seed with is, I'm curious, how have you managed to do it the right way?
Well, look, I'm not perfect by any stretch of the imagination, and I'm in my struggle. The longer I've been doing this, the less I know. I feel like sometimes, but a couple of different things. So first of all, the way that I kind of like to look at things is understand what's the TAM, what's the total addressable market. What do you have on your side? So you either have to take a very, very large market and figure out how to just get a sliver of it, or if it's a really small niche market, you need to get a larger portion of it. So our industry is a little bit unique that it is very fragmented still. And so there's fragmentation between our players, and then there has been a lot more consolidation over the years, but one of the trends is there's consolidation between our customers as well. And so that's something that has to be looked at and understood of, like, what are you building toward and how are you going to get there? Now, there's a temptation to want to build this structure and layer of leaders and or buy business and get access into business. Our approach to it has been find a way to solve a really important problem, add value, and if you get the solution right, then a lot of different people or customers can fall into that solution, right? So this is kind of going back to my original challenge with Diacon when I came into the company. Was for many years we were one of the largest 3PL companies in the country. And we had achieved that kind of by just sheer luck of having a customer named Sears. And Sears put us in business. Sears put a lot of different people in business, but they put us in business. And when they grew and when they were successful and they were printing money, that was fantastic. That was a great relationship. But shortly after, and particularly after I joined the company, about a year in, Sears declared bankruptcy. And that pretty quickly turned from a really fantastic customer to, oh shit, who are we gonna fill in next? And so the mindset that we had to shift to, and I think any company has to think about, is, does my solution fit for multiple partners or multiple, is there an addressable market out there that can use this?
Your perspective, Rob, I want to know, how do you get to that point where you can legitimately and rationally step back? And I ask this because you're aware of the drama that comes with final mile and how upset people can get over things that are not life and death. And you have been a consistent and steady calmness in this industry.
Well, again, I appreciate that. I hope even 10% of that is true, and I will take it. But the good fortune that I had, again, in my kind of, call it after my college years, was to have some incredible mentors. And I had a lot. And I quickly realized that, and was told, we're all told this in one way or another, that your reputation is really, really important. And protecting your reputation is just incredibly valuable for a lot of different reasons. But I think sometimes people think they can get away with certain things, or they trick themselves. Okay. And the approach that I've tried to take is to protect that reputation, but also do it by bringing people into my circle and into my organization that there's non-negotiables. Okay, so you don't have to have, and this is something that Bill Marriott, one of my mentors, would say, is you don't have to have expertise in that specific industry to be successful. You can acquire that expertise, but if you don't have the right characteristics, or you're not somebody that can be trusted, then it will never work. Okay, and so the people that I try to bring into my organization, whether they're with Diacon specifically or just into my friendship circles or social circles in any capacity, are people that have an extraordinary desire to compete, to produce, to create something, to build, to solve problems, but they have to have what I consider just non-negotiables. You cannot be, and I kind of summarize this and say, hopefully this gets through your podcast. I don't make a habit of swearing, but it's the no asshole clause. Okay, so if
we'll let that fly.
Okay, all right. I look. Here's the good thing: is as soon as people realize they don't know who Rob Davis is, they're not going to listen to this podcast anyway. I hate to break it to you, so I don't think you're going to get any complaints. So. But no, in all seriousness though, there's a lot of different things. I think that's pretty self-explanatory, but there's some things like, if you cheat on your wife, you're probably going to cheat in business too. If you try to take shortcuts in different aspects, well, those are characteristics that they're going to follow you everywhere you go. And so, just that high character mentality and methodology is really important, and I think it makes every single individual better and elevates the company, and also the companies that you're servicing and working with.
Rob, if you had a magic wand, if you had the ability to go out and fix one thing in the final mile industry, what would that be?
The quality and caliber of our, for lack of I don't know what the right term, everyone uses these different terms, but our frontline workers, whether it's an independent contractor, independent service provider, some people call motor carriers, delivery teams. The men and women that are going into customers' houses, that is the most difficult job, okay? It is a thankless job, and it is often associated with somebody that is only there because of their muscle or their ability to lift something heavy. And it is so much more. It is somebody that has work ethic, that is consistent, that is reliable, that shows up when they say they're going to show up, somebody that can solve problems, somebody that can go into a customer's house and deal with the customer. There's really not very many industries, and I would argue to say that we are at the top of the list in terms of industries that go into people's homes. We go into their bedroom, we go into their most private, sacred areas, and we spend time there. And a lot of times we do it while they are there, or while a single adult is there. And it's not a place where we can take cameras in and verify the interactions that are going on. And so that person has to be a high character, important person. And I wish that I could change the reputation of that. And there are definitely, I don't care who you are, there's challenges that come along, and there's people that you put on the road that sometimes do things that disappoint you. But if we could change the reputation of that, I think we would be able to also hire and attract more qualified people and prove to them that this is a really good job. This is a really good way to make a living. I have people, and going back to kind of your first question, there's people that go do deliveries for us. They make more than my doctor friends or more than my lawyer friends or more than, a lot of people do out of college with a lot of debt. And so there's a big opportunity to change that perception of them. And don't get me wrong, whatever they are making, they need to make more. They should, everybody, if anybody's hearing this, give all of your delivery teams raises, please. They deserve every single bit of it and more.
The next question I have for you is, where do you see the next 5 years in our industry going?
Well, I think this is a really, really exciting time. I think particularly when anybody that's younger than, call it 50, they've lived through a lot of technological advancements, a lot of changes, and that have been pretty phenomenal. None of them are as big and as significant as AI. Okay, whether you are directly working with technology company AI or the building out the infrastructure to support AI initiatives. We have, massive shortages in electricity and our grid system, trades. There's massive opportunity there. But I think as exciting as it is, it's pretty stressful, I think, for a lot of people. And it's overwhelming to see something that has been created that's unleashed that you can't put it back in the box. It's out, it's there, it's a phenomenal tool, but you quickly, anybody that spends any time on Grok or ChatGPT, you quickly realize, oh my gosh, this is really powerful. This gave a better answer than I could have given. This wrote some of the things that I charged tens of thousands of dollars to do as a consultant. I can now get access to that information within a couple of keystrokes.
Yeah.
And so it can be an overwhelming time if you look at it that way and if you let it be. Now, the way to solve that is to, again, look for a problem that you can solve specifically and add value and protect, the reputation, the relationship that you have. Things will change dramatically over the next 5 years in our industry. I think that we're in a much better position in terms of how we compare to most industries. I would not want to be a lawyer right now. Absolutely, in any circumstance, I would not be sending my kids off to do that. Our industry is going to advance, but I think it's going to be disrupted at a different pace. And there's clear understanding that what we do is really significant. And you add on some of these other technological capabilities, they increase our efficiency and our capability, but they don't displace the service that we add. And so I see that as just a really exciting time to be in our industry and to see what's capable and the ability to create more transparency throughout the customer experience. I think it's going to be pretty exciting. So I don't see it going away, and I think it's going to just continue to grow and expand in the next 5 years.
I agree with you, and it's funny. Although I'm on board with all of the new technology, the one thing I love about what we do is that ChatGPT can never carry a couch into your house. Now, yeah. Elon might create some kind of a drone that does, but
that's true. I do. You have to remember, Elon's a neighbor down here, and I have. I see quickly that those things are coming, but as exciting as it is to see them come down the pipeline and what some humanoid robots are able to do, there's still significant value. I don't see here's what I think is really important to consider. Don't be fearful that we're going to be displaced by humanoid robots. The technological advancements that are coming are going to augment our capability to be more productive. And so they aren't going to, now, 20, 30 years down the road, that may be different. But in the next, 5 to 10 years, we have more opportunity than we did the previous 5 to 10 years.
That's fair. Well, Rob, I want to wrap this up by thanking you again for joining us. I'm looking forward to seeing a lot of the things that you talked about come true. And I want to just encourage you, if there's anybody out there that you think could benefit the show by talking specifically about our industry, please let me know. We'd be grateful to throw the name out there and bring them on the show.
Awesome. Well, it's really a pleasure. I hope that you get something out of it. And it's always an honor to talk to you. And I appreciate this subject matter. So thank you so much. And if you happen to have any listeners that have any further questions, I love connecting with other people in the industry, and particularly the next generation of up-and-comers, and hope that they can learn to not make the mistakes that I made.
I appreciate that, Rob. Thank you very much.
If you deliver big stuff for a living, this is for you. Refrigerators, sofas, bedroom sets, treadmills, home gyms. You are the one who turns a tracking number into a real thing in someone's home. And whether anyone tells you this or not, you are the face of the brand the second that door opens. Now, here's the question. Are you walking into that home as just the delivery guys, or as trained professionals who know exactly what they are doing? Doolin Strategy Partners have been in logistics for about 30 years. We've seen a lot, but we are still learning on how to be better today than yesterday. Anyone who claims to know it all, steer clear of them. They are a claim waiting to be filed. Most drivers and helpers are thrown the keys, given an address, and told, figure it out. Figure out how to move a 400-pound fridge around a tight corner. Figure out how to deal with a frustrated customer. Figure out how to protect floors, walls, and your own back. That is not fair to you. And it's not safe either. Here is the good news. You can level up your skills, your confidence, and your value. That is where Get Doolin training for the final mile comes in. It's built for you, the people in the truck, not just the people in the office. We focus on the stuff that actually matters on the job. How to protect the customer's home, how to avoid damage, how to communicate like a pro, and how to represent yourself like a real professional, not just a driver. Here is why this matters for you. When you are trained and certified, you make fewer mistakes. You deal with less drama and fewer callbacks. Customers respect you more. Retailers and 3PLs see you as the crew they can count on. That is how you become the go-to team, the one they request, the one they keep, the one they pay. You already do the hard part. You lift, carry, climb stairs, deal with weather, traffic, and tight spaces. So why not get the credit and the confidence that comes with real training and certification? If you're not using Get Doolin yet, why not? You want access to training that is made for final mile delivery, not some generic motivational video that has nothing to do with what you do every day. You are not just delivery. You are the last mile, the final impression, the reason a customer says, "That was a great experience," or "Never again." So invest in your craft. Download the app. Get Doolin training for the final mile. It's not hard to find, and the value is clear. For your customers, for your company, and for you, the professional walking through that front door. Thank you for watching, and welcome to Get Doolin Training, the only platform out there listening to you and providing real training that adds value. Doolin Strategy Partners has you covered here.